Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to completely cure that absolute stomach-dropping panic you feel when you're assigned to take the minutes for your next big meeting. If you've ever sat down at a conference table, popped open your laptop, and suddenly felt the overwhelming weight of documenting every single thing that happens, well, you're in exactly the right place.
We've all been there, right? You're furiously typing away, practically breaking your keyboard, trying to capture exactly what your fast-talking colleagues are saying while they interrupt each other, pivot topics, and jump back and forth. It's just a feeling of overwhelming dread and fast-paced chaos. And frankly, it's entirely the wrong way to go about this.
So let's completely reframe the whole concept right off the bat. The word minutes actually has absolutely nothing to do with time or the clock on the wall. It actually comes from the Latin word minutia, which literally means small details. And, that's exactly what good minutes are meant to capture. The crucial, tiny details that your team will absolutely forget if no one writes them down.
So, here's our agenda for this explainer. We're going to cover the myth of transcripts, the 3 essential elements, keeping it factual and neutral, diary versus official record, and we'll wrap up with some live strategies.
All right, Section 1, the myth of transcripts. You are not a court reporter. Let's dive right in and shatter this massive misconception immediately.
The absolute biggest mistake you can make when taking notes is acting like a court reporter. Meeting minutes are not a transcript. You are not there to record the word-for-word conversation. Instead, your job is to capture the actionable outcomes of that conversation. You really have to filter out all the noise and leave only what actually matters.
So, the crucial point is knowing exactly what those outcomes are, which brings us to Section 2, the 3 essential elements of what to actually capture.
Listen, there are really only 3 things your notes absolutely must capture. First up, decisions made. Like, what did the group actually agree to do? Or what was the result of a vote? Second, action items assigned. Specifically, what tasks were assigned, who's doing them, and by when. And third, key information shared. Just the important updates or facts the group needs to remember. If your notes capture these 3 things, your minutes are doing their job flawlessly. Everything else, just fluff.
You really need to set some strict boundaries here. Keep the absolute gold, your decisions, action items, and key facts. But you've got to ruthlessly cut the rest. Leave out the small talk from before the meeting started. Drop the repeated points where 3 different people say the exact same idea in slightly different words. And absolutely leave out who argued for which side of a debate.
Let's keep moving to Section 3. Keep it factual and neutral. We're going to look at how this builds into the actual grammatical rules of writing minutes, specifically using past tense and third person.
Because minutes are the official written record of an event that has already occurred, you always have to write in the past tense. And critically, you write in the third person. So, for example, instead of writing, "I reported the audit is complete," it's "Marcus reported it was done." You have to act strictly as a neutral observer to the event. And yes, that applies even if you are Marcus and you're the one speaking.
And this neutrality extends to emotions too. Never attribute emotions or characterize people's attitudes in your notes. Writing something like "Sarah seemed frustrated" is guessing how someone feels, which can easily create conflict and honestly looks highly unprofessional on the official record. Stick to the facts. Writing "Sarah expressed concern about the budget" records exactly what happened without diagnosing her emotional state.
To show you why this matters so much in practice, let's look at Section 4, diary entry versus official record, and why structured formats win. We'll use a stark before and after example from a meeting of the Westfield High School Environmental Club.
Imagine reading something like this. Marcus talked about recycling. Priya said it's a problem. Nobody really decided anything, but Marcus is looking into prices, I think. That reads exactly like a rambling diary entry, doesn't it? I mean, it totally captures the vague feeling of sitting in that room and half listening to a wandering discussion. But imagine pulling that up a month later when you actually need to know what was decided. It tells you absolutely nothing useful for the future.
But what's really interesting is the transformation when we apply our rules. You can take that exact same chaotic, wandering conversation and distill it into a highly scannable, structured format. You just write down the decision, pursue adding bins. The action item, Marcus will research costs by November 10th. And a brief note on the discussion, funding source to be decided later. Boom! It filters out all the conversational detritus and leaves only the actionable outcomes.
Now, how do you actually survive doing this live when people are talking a mile a minute? Let's hit our final section, Section 5, live note-taking strategies for surviving fast talkers.
Okay, here is your 4-step survival toolkit. First, copy the agenda into your document before the meeting even starts. That way, you never stare at a blank page. You're just filling in the blanks under each topic. Second, stop trying to write down the discussion. Instead, train your ear to listen for cue phrases like, let's decide that, or so we're gonna. Third, rely heavily on abbreviations. Just jot down AI for action item, or use initials for names. And finally, and this is probably the most important one, polish those notes within 24 hours, because your memory of all that unwritten context is going to fade remarkably fast.
And remember this essential safety valve. If the group is moving on and you realize, wait, I missed a clear outcome, it's actually your job to stop the room and ask for clarification. Speak up and literally say, just to confirm for the minutes, we decided to go with option A, correct? Trust me, no one will be annoyed. In a room full of people who are probably a little unsure if anything was actually accomplished, they're going to genuinely appreciate your thoroughness.
Finally, you should always wrap up your document with a clean action item summary grid right at the very bottom. It isolates the tasks, the owners, and the due dates. Doing this allows anyone on the team to instantly scan the end of the document and immediately find their homework, without having to read through the entire record. It's a real game changer.
Ultimately, meeting minutes are the tangible proof that pulling all those busy people into a room actually accomplished something. So the next time you're handed the notebook, ask yourself, when someone reads these notes a month from now, will they see a record of success or a complete waste of time? The power to shape that narrative is now entirely in your hands. So, how will you record your next meeting?